Good morning, Facebook Live. It's just amazing to be with you today. I'm really excited about what I'm going to be sharing today. I must be honest, I'm quite nervous about what I'm going to be sharing today because there's all that sense of anticipation when you know that you're going to be reaching people with a message that you can't even see them, and you're just wanting to represent our King incredibly well. I spoke to you the last time about conquering fear, and that perfect love casts out all fear. And so today I have to talk to you about what does perfect love look like. And I'm very excited to share that with you today. I'm going to start off by reading from Revelations, and then we're going to look at a few other scriptures after that. The first scripture is Revelations 2, verse 2 to 4. Now, John was on Patmos. He'd been burnt in oil. He'd managed to survive that onslaught of being martyred. And so they exiled him to Patmos. And he was having this time of exile and isolation, much like we're having right now. And in that time, he was encountering heavenly experiences and heavenly visions. And in one of those visions, amazing visions, Jesus presented himself to him. My friends, it's so exciting when we take time aside and we spend time and we encounter Jesus. It's just so exciting. And so I want to tell you, this is the most incredible time for us to do exactly that, to spend time with Jesus. But when Jesus came and spoke to him, he spoke about the 7 letters to the 7 physical churches of the time, but he also spoke to him about 7 letters of 7 church eras. And the first church era, now remember, that was the church era that Jesus himself had planted. Those were the people that Jesus himself had established as the church. And then Paul physically established the church in Ephesus. And he says to the church in Ephesus, I know your works. That means that which you accomplish by your own hand and your own mind. I know your labor. That means the trouble and the grief and the sorrow and the pain that you've had to go through. He says, and your patience, your endurance and your steadfastness, not to be shaken, but to allow God to do what he wants to do through your lives. And how you cannot bear those who are evil, those who are wicked, those who are doing terrible things against mankind. And you have tested those who say they are apostles and are not, and have found them to be liars. That means people who operate out of deceit and falsehood. You have persevered and have endured hardships, and in my name, and you have not grown weary or tired. So God is saying, this is what I'm commending you on. I'm commending you on your hard work. I'm commending you on your labor. I'm commending you on your patience. I'm commending you on the fact that you can't bear that which is evil. Remember, friends, we don't ever disapprove of people. We disapprove of the evil one and the evil works. And the apostles that have said that they are apostles, but they're not, they're deceptive. How do you know when someone's being deceptive? When they're not operating under the power of the love of God. That's when they're deceptive. And then he says this, and you have persevered and you've endured hardships. My friends, there are many hardships. In this world, we will have many troubles. We were created to be able to cope with hardships. We were created to cope with that. And as I said to you last time, that where we are weak, he is strong. We were made for hardships. And so don't be surprised when hardships comes. You were made for hardships. You were going to be okay. But then he says to them, yet I hold this against you. You've forsaken your first love. You've lost your first love. And when I read that again, I was arrested on that statement. I've just done a bit of a study on love, and they say there's 5 stages of love. There's falling in love, being a couple, disillusionment, creating the everlasting real love, and the power of 2, changing the world. There are 5 stages of love. He didn't say that you have forsaken your love. He didn't say you've grown cold. He didn't say you're not in love with me anymore. He said, you've forsaken your first love. He was very clear on that. You've forsaken your first love. So I had to know what was different about love and first love. And it's really exciting because that's what I want to share with you today. God has called us to live in the fullness of our first love in him. Well, let's look at 1 John 4, verse 16b. And it says here, God is love. Statement. God is love. And as I said to you The last time I preached. It doesn't mean that he can love or he does love or he wants to love. It means that he is love. He oozes love. He can do nothing but be love. It goes on to say, whoever lives in love lives in God, and God is in him. In this way, love is made complete among us so that we will have confidence in the day of judgment. Because in this world, we are like him. Our confidence comes out of the fact that we love him and he loves us. Our confidence comes in the fact that we are in him and he's in us. Our confidence comes in the fact that we are so flooded with the love of the Father that when you squeeze him, you get love, but when you squeeze us, you get love. My friends, our greatest confidence is the love that the Father has poured into our lives and that he's poured through our lives so that we can love others. Our greatest confidence is knowing that we are in love with the lover of our soul. It goes on to say there is no fear in love. When you are so in love with God, when you are so in love with Jesus that you ooze love, there's absolutely no fear. Why? Because you confidently know that the one who loves you is never, ever, 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 ever going to abandon you. It goes on to say, but perfect love drives out all fear, because fear has to do with punishment. The one who fears is not made perfect in love. So we see that God says, guys, you've done this amazing thing for me. And I want to say to so many of the church leaders, and I want to say to so many of the people that have been on the fields, that have been working so hard, God is so pleased with what you've done. He is so excited by what you've done. And now he's saying, don't grow weary. This is not the time to get weary. This is not the time to give up. This is not the time to be overwhelmed by storms. This is the time to run deeper into the love that I have for you. This is the time to get the real revelation of what my love looks like, feels like, what my love releases through you, and what my love does between you and me. Because perfect love casts out all fear. You see, my friend, conditional love, we're living in a world of conditional love. Conditional love says this: I love you and you love me. I love you for what you can do for me, and you love me for what I can do for you. And if you're no longer pleasing me, I don't love you anymore. I don't need you, so I cut you off. Because it's all got to do with needs. It's all got to do with performance. It's all got to do with what we can get out of love. That is not the love of our Father. His love is in us, it abides in us, it dwells in us, it is in us, it's through us. It's like the vine. It says, if you abide in me, I will abide in you. When a branch is part of a vine, the very saps of the vine oozes into every single one of the branches, and you can't separate them, because what the vine has got, the branches bring forth and overflow in fruit. So you can't separate God's love in you and your love in God. And conditional love separates it. It says, love means you please me. And if you don't please me, I don't need you in my life. And that's the love that most relationships are built on today. But that's also the love that we come to our daddy with. And we think, Daddy, you'll only love me if I please you. You'll only love me if I do good. You'll only love me if I make you happy. Because that's the only love that we understand, and it's the love that we've lived in this world. But my friend, that's not the love of our Abba Father. That is not the love. His love is unconditional. You see, he doesn't love you because of anything you've ever done. He doesn't even love you because of what you're going to do. He doesn't even love you because you can impress him. I've got a secret to tell you. You can't impress him. He's not impressed by anything that's flesh. He's not impressed by anything that we've got to offer him. All he wants is for us to fall in love with him. Because you see, the love that he talks about as the first love, you've lost your first love, is what the world describes as falling in love. And he says, fall in love with me. Fall in love with me over and over again. I remember when I first got saved in the 70s, we used to sing that song, I keep falling in love with him over and over and over again. I keep falling in love with him over and sweeter as the days go by. Oh, what a love between my Lord and I. Keep falling in love with him over and over and over and over again. That's what he wants. He wants us to keep falling in love with him over and over and over and over and over and over again. He says, don't lose your first love. Don't get so busy working for me. Don't get so busy doing good for me. Don't get so busy serving me that you've forgotten that I love you and that you love me, and nothing you can do can please me. You see, my friends, unconditional love says, God so loves me that I can't help but love him. And the more that I become aware of his love for me, and the more that I respond to his love by loving him back, the more I overflow with the love for you. And unconditional love is never ending. It's an overflowing of love, and it doesn't matter what you get in return, because it's not conditional to what we get in return. It's an overflowing love, and it has no fear. You see, no matter what's happening in the world days, no matter what the shaking, no matter what the ploy of the evil one, no matter what the plans are, one thing is not going to change. God loves you. And not only does he love you, he loves the world. He loves the world so much that he gave Jesus. And I just want to read that scripture to you as well. And that's from John 3. And in John 3:16, he says, for God so loved the world, friends, not the church, the world, that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world. Why do we think God is condemning the world? Why do we think that somehow God is mad at the world? God is mad as a snake at the evil one. He is mad at the devil. He's mad at the works of the evil one. But he's not mad with the world. He loves the world. Do you know that the greatest part of God's bride is still in the world? And he wants us to go and reach her. He wants us to go and love her. He wants us to go and take his love to her. My friends, let's not bring judgment on a people that God is not judging. He loves her. And then in 1 John 3, if we can just turn to that, and I love the way the Bible works, because John 3:16 tells us God's heart, and 1 John 3:16 tells us Jesus' heart. He says, this is how we know what love is. Jesus Christ laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for our brothers. If anyone has material possession and sees his brother in need, but has no pity on him, how can the love of God be in him? Dear children, let us not love with words and tongue, but with actions and in truth. Let us truly start loving each other. So he said, he's not talking to us about not loving. He's talking to us about not having a first love. So what is the difference between the 5 types of love the psychologists have very clearly taught us about, and science has very clearly proven for us, so that we've got better understanding? Well, the first type of love is called falling in love. And what happens when you fall in love is that you become incredibly overwhelmed by chemical things that start happening in your body. You see, science has worked out that there's an incredible life-giving force that happens when you fall in love. There's an incredible life-giving force that happens to our physical body when we have a first love. It's a euphoric excitement and happiness that floods us, that we've got no control over, because our chemicals go crazy. And because our chemicals go crazy, we live in that atmosphere, and we live in that incredible sense of I'm in love and life is glorious. Now, it's strange because they say that lust has exactly the opposite effect. Whereas falling in love, the romance and the excitement of love gives you life. The drive of lust and lusting after each other depletes life, and it actually causes your mental sickness, physical illness. Isn't that crazy? So God hasn't said, I want conditional love, meet each other's physical needs. He says, I want that type of love that gives you life, and life in abundance, because Jesus came to give us life and life in abundance. So let's look at what happens when people fall in love. I'm just making sure that the podcast is still working, because I don't want to lose that. Oops, sorry. Let's look at what happens when people fall in love. Well, the first thing that happens is that there is a chemical release in their body. Adrenaline is released, and that brings excitement, and their eyes dilate. You know what happens when your eyes dilate? You can see more. In the dark, our eyes dilate because we can see more. We can see what's going on. So when we're in love with God, our spiritual eyes are opened to be able to see things we couldn't see before. Then we start perspiring. You get those sweaty hands and those hot flushes of being in love. You get the pink cheeks. Oh, I'm in love. Oh, this is the most exciting thing. Your heart rate increases. There's an increasing of the heart rate. Your whole body says, she's in love, she's in love, she's in love. Something amazing is going on. And you get the butterflies in your tummy. Now, at this point of time, I need to tell you about the first time that I fell in love. Well, I thought I was in love a few times. I remember the first little boy that paid me attention when I was 10 years old, and I thought, could this be love? But anyway, that wasn't it. The big first love happened when I was about 14. And I have got this beautiful friend. Her and I have been friends since we were 12 years old. Linda, I love you, my friend. And I'm petitioning God for your complete healing. And I want you to know that you may be alone in Scotland, but you're always in my heart. And I know that we will have coffee again and we'll laugh again and we'll be together again as you conquer this terrible disease that's trying to take your life. And I know that God has come to give you life, my friend, and we will celebrate your life together again in one room. So I just want you to know that. Well, my beautiful friend Linda was part of my incredible experience of falling in love. And he was a blue-eyed, girls, for all those young teenagers, a blue-eyed surfer, lifesaver. Oh, and he had a 50. You know, in my day, 50 motorbikes, that was the in thing. Any guy that had a 50 was like, he was like a prince on a white horse. And I remember falling so madly in love with him. And I would have all the hot flashes. And Linda and I would decide where we were going to be going. But it really was me deciding, because we were just going to go wherever he was going to be. And it was either the movies or it was the beach. And you would just casually arrive at the beach and put down your towel and make as if it's the most normal thing in the world to be there. But meantime, your eyes were roving everywhere just to see if your lifesaver was going to be there. And I remember being so passionately in love with him. I used to dream about him. I used to draw little pictures in my classroom. I used to write his name into the desk. I remember being in maths lesson and thinking I couldn't really care about maths because, I've got someone on my mind. I used to practice writing my name with his surname and thinking that would be just the perfect combination. I was in love. And I want to tell you, everything about me was in love. I was so excited. I remember going down to the beachfront and seeing a motorbike, and I said, oh, Linda, this is him, this is him, this is him, and getting all ready and poised and acting like you don't care a damn. And the motorbike would go past, and it wasn't him. And then that feeling of, I can't believe it wasn't him, it wasn't him. And I remember I'd always wanted to have a rickshaw ride, and they were rickshaw on the beachfront in Durban. And the one day we decided to go on a rickshaw ride. And here we were going on this little ride. And you know, that was quite humiliating, actually, because only the people that were holiday makers in Durban did things like that. And I was not a holiday maker. I was a cool chick. I was from Durban. But I really wanted to go on a rickshaw ride because, after all, you know, I was still excited and I love adventure and was always looking for another adventure. So here we're going on our little ride, and the next minute, who should come past on his motorbike? Oh my goodness! I didn't know if I wanted to shout and say hello, 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 or if I wanted to say, oh, don't see me, don't see me, don't see me, because I was so embarrassed to be riding on this rickshaw. But why am I telling you this story? Because, my friends, there's nothing more exciting than falling in love. You never forget it. You never forget those emotions and those feelings. And that's the love that God says, Kath, you're doing amazing things for me, my girl, but you've lost your first love. You don't have that excitement about our relationship anymore. You don't get butterflies in your tummy because we're going to be spending time together. You're not thinking about me all day, dreaming about me all day. You haven't been filled with your first love for a long time. Now, what happens chemically when we fall in love? Well, the first thing that happens is the adrenaline that sense of excitement, that sense of, oh, well-being. You get the flush, pretty look in your cheeks. You get that rosy look. You get eyes dilated, hearts beating, butterflies in the tummy. Life is worth living and it's exciting. The next thing that happens is that testosterone is released in both the men and the women, and estrogen in the woman. So your body is responding to the emotion of first love. Now that gives you the longing for closeness. And it's that longing for closeness that happens with the chemical changes in your body that gives you a sense of belonging. You see, my friends, when we fall in love with God, that sense of being part of something and belonging comes and overwhelms our heart. And that's what he wants from us. No longer are you alone. No longer are you sitting on the outside. No longer are you battling with loneliness. No longer are you battling with depression because nobody loves you. Everybody hates you. You think I'm going to eat worms. But your whole sense of belonging and being part of something becomes part of your life. I chose to wear red roses today because my love language is red roses. And I always relate red roses with love. So today I'm wearing my love so that I can talk about love to you. The next thing that happens is the good feeling hormones. And so you immediately get a sense of good feeling, and that's dopamine. It energizes you, it excites you, it's the reward seeking. So suddenly you just want to, how can I bless him? What can I do for him? What can I do that's exciting? What's he going to do for me? It's that whole sense of, oh, you see a little thing, you just want to buy it for them. You think a little flower and you just want to pick it for them. You just want to see a little card, you want to write them a little love letter. Everything about blessing becomes part of who you are because the chemical changes have happened in you to release that type of feeling. It is a neurotransmission that releases pleasure in your life. The next thing that is specific to falling in love is oxytocin, and this is the cuddle hormone. Isn't that amazing? So what does God do when we fall in love with our first love? He gives us the ability to be affectionate. My friends, if you believe, well, I'm not really affectionate, I don't really hug, I'm not somebody that shows my feelings, I'm not emotional, well, maybe you actually have never truly fallen in love. Because the overflow of the oxytocin in your body makes you want to cuddle, makes you want affection, makes you want to touch, makes you want to squeeze, makes you want to just hold on to their hand, makes you want to. I would think about what he liked, about what he didn't like. I would imagine talking to him. I would imagine what it would be like to meet him around a wonderful romantic dinner. I was just always single-mindedly thinking about him. And it didn't matter who walked past or how dishy they were, they did not get my attention because he had all of my heart. And that's what happens. We become so single-minded on God that we are not swayed by every wind of doctrine. You see, because I know God, because I know the lover of my soul, because I know Jesus, when something comes that doesn't look like him, I just say, that is not him. That is not truth. That is not God, because he doesn't look like that. He doesn't behave like that. He doesn't feel like that. He is not, that's not who he is, because every single part of my serotonin is single-minded. I'm single-minded, sold out for the lover of my soul, the one that I'm in love with. They say first love is addictive. It's very addictive. You see, my friends, we were created to be addicts. We were created to desire dopamine, that feeling of pleasure. But the only thing is that addiction was never meant to be for anything other than our wonderful King Jesus and our Father in heaven. And when we are not in love with God and we're not in love with Jesus, we want to fill that need within us with everything we can find. And that's why suddenly all kinds of things become important. And if we're not addicted to substances and we're not hankering after gambling and we're not hankering after food and we're not hankering after alcohol, then we hanker after a partner to fill that need. And that's why so many women especially go for the wrong men, because you look for a man to fulfill something in you that only God can fulfill in you. You see, my friends, when we are absolutely unshakably in love with God, we don't need that part of our fulfillment, of our addiction filled by anything else. and then anything else beyond that goes into the right perspective, then we don't need an excess of anything. You can love people because you love him. You can enjoy food because you love him. You can enjoy anything because you love him, but nothing else is filling that incredible need, that need to be addicted. We've got to be addicted to Jesus. We've got to be addicted. Our love affair with God has to be the most addictive thing in the world. He says, this is what I have against you. You've lost your first love. You've lost your ability to be in love with me, to fall in love with me. You've lost your ability to just experience me more and more and more every day. Now, it's very interesting that I listened to a talk by Professor A. Marsh, who's a psychologist at Georgetown University, and one of the things that they commented on was this: all forms of love merge out of the maternal love system. So science and nature and anybody that is not in any way in love with God will tell you that all forms of love come from the one place. Now, the bond of a mother and a child is the most powerful love on this earth. But you know that love comes from somewhere. It comes from the God of love, the God that is love. All forms of love come straight out of the heart of God who is love. And that's what he wants us to know. We've got to understand that we also develop not only an addiction for love, but we also develop an emotional empathy, which means that you feel their pain. When they are sad, you are sad. When they are happy, you are happy. You want to live to make them happy. So you think of all kinds of things that you can do to release pleasure into their lives. And that's exactly what happens when we are in love with God, my friends. Our heart breaks for what breaks God's. You see, my friends, we can't look at anything through the eyes of this world. When we look at the broken, when we look at the beggars, when we look at